Take this job and shove it. I ain't working here no more. Everybody's working for the weekend. Taking care of business every day. Now it's wow, 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 wow. Welcome to the working week.
Working 9 to 5, what a way to make a living.
Minimum wage.
Welcome to another edition of The Working Lunch here on WCUW Radio and also videotaped on Worcester's cable channel. So I'm joined this month. We have my co-host this month, Kwesi Foster, who is usually behind the board. And Sean McGauley is behind the board. He's our co-host fill-in, you might say. Plus, he is he's done a lot of producing for us. So we're kind of mixing. I feel like we're shaking it up. It's like a lineup change. Yeah. I hope you guys aren't feeling you.
Never know what you're gonna get.
That's right. The coach is going. I don't know. I was gonna say we're going with the speedy lineup here, the fast lineup, right?
Jet set.
We're going with the jet set.
Substitute.
Fly
today.
sweep. So, Kwesi, how you doing?
I'm doing good. I just got back from a 2-day training in Boston, out in East Boston. And it was on social media marketing, and so it was pretty good insight and refresher on some
They say
things.
the Facebook is pretty popular these days. Is that true?
Facebook, and we had some questionable conversations about LinkedIn being brought by Microsoft.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
So we're expecting a lot of adjustments and things to change the fact that Microsoft took over LinkedIn.
I love how you say we're expecting a lot of changes, as if you're like one of the big wigs at LinkedIn. Yeah, we're expecting some changes with the takeover. But
I wish I would have brought stock before Microsoft would have brought LinkedIn. I would have been doing well.
As a LinkedIn member, we're expecting some changes, but I'm huddling with the board now, and we'll see how it goes. We're playing it by ear. So, wow, that's cool. Yeah. And Twitter?
Twitter, we learned. I learned Twitter analytics, which I didn't even know Twitter had analytics. So I'm pretty excited to get back into the office and run some Twitter polls and campaigns to get some feedback from social media.
Great. Instagram?
We don't have an Instagram account
Snapchat?
yet. I'm trying to figure out how to use Snapchat with our board members.
Fiddle faddle?
That one doesn't
No,
exist.
that's actually, I'd like to do a segment, is it a social media platform or is it a snack? Yeah. So, good stuff. So, and I know that you've got working on a lot of other projects for us. You keep track of our outcome performance reporting and keep track of our comings and goings, and then do all the office administrative work. So we keep you busy over there. And here you are, in front of the mic today,
Plugging away. It's always good work.
When are we going to see another Kwesi on campus? Let me put you on the spot here. I
Also-
know they're in production.
Yep. So
Post-production work right now.
the next Kwesi on campus will be filmed at WPI, and it's going to be on computer science, robotics, and engineering. And the interest in that one was because I know you were interested in cybersecurity and IT. So I got to speak to a director there who was really focused on cybersecurity. So I think
Okay, at some point I do want you to work in, I don't know how much, I think legally we could take like a popular movie and we can show like up to a certain amount in the public interest, right? You could just take a clip. Is that, Jessica, is that correct? Like maybe 5 seconds or something? So I say you got to work in a shot of the, like a thing from the Terminator.
The Terminator.
Either Terminator,
gonna be
like
Star
1 through
Wars.
4, either one.
I'll
just
be
like
back.
the Rise of the Machines, right? It's going to be 2, yeah. Yeah. So we have a special guest in studio here. A special guest, retired.
Nice to be special.
A retired employment specialist at Workforce Central with the program, the Senior Community
Service Employment Program, CSAP.
CSAP.
For short. It's from the U.S. Department of Labor.
And so, Joe Cutroni, how you doing, sir?
Excellent, Jeff. Thank you for having me today.
You're looking good.
I feel great.
So
Retirement.
Yeah.
This is the third time I've retired, so I'm feeling good and I'm enjoying life, and it's a beautiful day out there in our neighborhood here.
Well, I know
it's nice to be back at WCUW.
Yeah, I was gonna say you started here.
Many years ago. Well, let me tell you a quick story.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you about my years at WCUW. Many years ago, when I was a kid growing up, my dad was a salesman. He was on the road all the time, and being a kid, I always wanted to be with my dad. And he occasionally took me with him on his trips. His territory covered Rhode
Now,
Island.
his name wasn't. Was his name
It's-
Willie Loman?
No, it wasn't. Joe
Okay.
Cutroni Sr.
Oh, okay.
But, he covered Connecticut, Rhode Island, part of New York State, New Jersey. He was all over.
Wow.
And in those days, they
And you used
weren't.
to get to go. you
If
used
they-
to-
well, not on the overnight trips, but I used to go on the day trips with them, and I saw a lot of the back roads because interstates weren't
Yeah.
that big then. There were parts of them complete, but
Well,
not
just it'd
many.
be more common to take like the Route 20s of the world, and you
Exactly.
get to see a lot of small shops and mom. In fact, then there were
So-
less big box stores and
Oh,
more.
definitely.
That must have been a
Occasionally,
lot of
my
fun.
mother would come along, and my dad would drop us in a downtown where he knew there was a shopping, Woolworths and all, and we'd have lunch.
My parents used to take me on trips and they'd just drop me off places, but I don't think they didn't expect me to make it home. But hey,
But anyways,
what was your
so-
dad selling?
Well, I'll get to that.
Oh, it's a mystery.
The family business, his brothers had started a business, and their business was plastics, but not manufacturing. They were kind of like the used car salesmen of injection molding machines. They would buy and sell used machinery and also new machinery. So sometimes they'd take old machines and trade and all. And what they had is what we called the shop. It's
Yeah.
where they refurbished them. They'd take an old machine, clean it, fix whatever needed fixing, the hydraulics, the electrical, whatever needed.
Yeah.
Paint it, make it look new, and then either lease it
Give
or
me a
sell
time
it.
frame. Is this 50s, 60s?
This is
70s?
50s, 60s, and part of the early 70s I was involved with them. So as a kid, I always wanted to go to the shop rather than out on the road because it's pretty boring. You see a lot of nothing, a lot of trees on the roads.
Yeah.
So one day my day came. I think I was maybe 14 or so, and it was
The big
school
break.
vacation.
Yeah.
And my dad said, woke me up early on a Monday morning, which as a kid, you don't want to get up early on school vacation. But he said, come on, if you want to go to work, I'll take you. So he took me down to the shop early in the morning, introduced me to the shop foreman. His name was Ed. And he said, Ed, this is my son. Put him to work. If he's afraid to
Now,
get
how old
dirty.
were you at the time? About
I'm guessing around 14.
Okay.
I wasn't old enough to have a job bagging groceries or anything, but
young enough, yeah.
young enough to do something. And he said, Ed, this is my son. If he's afraid to get dirty or doesn't want to do what he's told, send him home. Okay, and then he left to do his salesman thing, and he left me with the foreman. So, okay, being the new kid, the new guy in the shop, I got the dirtiest
I was
job
just
in the
gonna
shop.
say, I'm not. Yeah,
The nastiest, cleaning the machines. Before the mechanics could work on them, they had to have them cleaned so they could see what the problems were.
a lot of dyes and stuff involved, right?
No, not
no?
necessarily. A lot of oil and grease and sometimes dead rodents, depending on what factory they came out of, plastic pellets. They were a mess.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so that was my job. And I learned, I could go home or I could do the job.
Yeah.
I learned at that age, you do the job you signed on to do or go home. And why
Chrissy, your
complain?
family owned a like a restaurant bar,
Bar and grill
so
restaurant.
they put you to work pretty
Sure,
early, right?
you did the
Same
same
thing.
thing, I'm
Probably
sure.
the same thing.
Dishwashing,
Probably
whatever.
cleaning out dirty
mopping
cleaning
plates.
the
bathrooms
bathrooms
and
and-
crushing beer bottles.
Yeah, whatever
I
they
did it
told
all.
you to do, whatever. So I learned that. Over the course of that week, also, there were about 20 guys in that shop that did all the work, welders and mechanics and electricians and machinists. Over the course of that week, every guy in the shop, including my uncles who were in the office, they were management, and the shop foreman came by to give me tips on how to do the job better and even help out. They all got dirty. I learned right then and there, if you're doing the job, do what needs to be done. Don't be afraid to get your hands dirty and do the job. Okay, fast forward to WCUW. I know you want to hear about that.
No, this is. I mean,
Well,
but
these
what
are-
you're just saying right then and there. That's what we're going to be talking later in the show about a new effort that we're resurrecting around youth employment and around the importance of learning those workplace skills. It's
Okay.
exactly what you're talking about. But we will fast forward. In the interest of time, we're going to fast forward to WCUW.
Mm-hmm.
But you're nailing what is so important with youth development. So that's how you learned it, and I know that's how Kwesi learned
well-
it. And Sean, I forget you were.
He went home. No. Jeff, I carried those two philosophies with me my whole life.
Roll up
And
your
any
sleeves and
job
get
I've
done whatever needs to get
you
done.
got to do the job
You gotta
and
do the
do
job.
whatever needs to be
Physically
done.
rolling up my sleeve right now.
Come to WCUW back maybe 69, 70. No, I'm sorry, 1989, 1970. I collaborated with Troy Tyree, the present executive director of the station, and another gentleman, Rick Gendro, and the three of us put together a festival called Sober in the Sun, which we started, and it continues to this day, even though we're no longer involved. But after we did that, at some point, Troy had approached me. I knew he hosted a radio show here. It was called In the Tradition. It ran Thursday afternoons, and it was folk and acoustic music. Nice. And Troy was moving to a morning slot, early morning, which fit his work and his life better, and he needed somebody to replace him. He knew I was interested in folk and acoustic music. I had literally hundreds of records from folk artists, and he asked if I'd be interested in being a programmer. I was shy, and, I had never been on radio, but I said, well, I'll give it a try. So I came down, and I was trained by the people here. In those days, they had people that trained you.
How long had the station been around?
Station has been in existence since 1973 as an FM.
Okay.
It was actually started in the 1920s by Dr. Robert H. Goddard's engineering students.
Wow.
And it continued
So
at
it's been
Clark
continuing
University.
since the 20s.
It continued as an AM low-powered station on the campus of Clark University since the 20s. In the 60s, of course, we were all radicals then.
We're going FM, man. The man can't stop us with his AM modulation.
Right.
We're frequency modulated, man.
Right.
FM.
There was a big...
That's what FM stands for. Did you guys get that?
Good
Good one.
man.
What do you mean?
What was AM?
91.3 FM radio.
Yeah, I know. But, I thought that was pretty clever.
What does AM stand for?
You can't get me too close to the mic, man.
Oh, well.
You see how they try to keep me down here, Joe?
They try.
Like in the 70s, they're
That's
trying
right.
to keep you guys down.
Well,
Keep you on the AM.
But anyways.
So you guys went to FM.
In the late 60s, early 70s, a group of Clark students, members of the community, faculty, got together, put in an application to the FCC, Federal Communications Commission.
Now, was
Big
Troy
brother.
a student at Clark?
I don't believe so, no.
But how you got involved?
But he was involved
and
in
then
radio.
he got you involved to get
Right.
his slot.
So anyways, I became a programmer. Did a show every Thursday. The people I worked for at the time, which was a different company, were gracious enough to let me out of work early on Thursdays to come down here. We had turntables in those days, 3 of them. We didn't have CDs. We didn't have MP3s. We didn't have anything. We had just records, those flat black vinyl discs to play music on, and it was fun. It was a riot. I had a great time, met a lot of great people. The people trained me. I had to produce a demo cassette in those days of my show or what I wanted to do. It had to be approved by the programming committee and then approved by the department head before I was allowed to be on the air. I was on the air for several years, and at the time, there was one of those great economic downturns. Just doing the show.
And what were you doing for work?
I was an expediter in a metal fabricating company, and there was a downturn. They lost a lot of business, so I was laid off. At the time here, there was one paid staffer, and he was a part-time office manager. He opened the mail, answered the phone, answered the front door. But that was about it. Everything else was run by either the board of directors or the committees. All right, I got laid off. I was doing a show. I started hanging out here, helping out. Again, sweeping the floors, cleaning the bathrooms,
Just
doing what
making sure
needed
things ran, yeah.
doing what needed to be done. With the downturn, they had to let the part-time office guy go, so nobody was paid staff here. I also volunteered or got drafted, I don't remember which, to join the programming committee, which oversaw programming here at the station. Eventually, the chairman of that committee left, and I was either elected or drafted or appointed chairman.
Wow.
That meant I had to report to the board of directors at their monthly meetings what was going on with programming. And I did that for about a year, provided written reports, ran meetings, did all the things the programming committee did. The board was pretty impressed.
I was going to say, it sounds like you took it pretty serious, though,
I did.
as a volunteer.
Well, again,
and
that
went a little
goes-
bit of the extra mile, right?
That goes back to do the job. All right? The board decided, they offered me the position of station manager, unpaid, but they said if you want to be here and be in charge, you can, and we'd like you to do it. And I did. And I did that for about a year. I got together with some of the other programmers to write grants to fund the position, And eventually we got funding from,
Nice.
I believe, Mass Cultural and probably Greater Worcester Community
So
Foundation.
that's a pretty good lesson for folks too about how you could take a passion of yours and then
move up.
start developing your own. You basically created your own position.
Yeah,
You didn't wait for someone else to come around and offer you a
you ta-
job. You actually created that job.
You take the initiative and don't be afraid to start at the bottom and don't be afraid to get your hands dirty. I've done every job in this place. I've cleaned the toilets, swept the floors, done the programming, shoveled the snow. You name it, I've done it.
More
But
rodents
anyways,
here or at your dad's shop?
pretty much any job I've had.
Yeah.
But,
I've had to deal with rodents all my life.
oh, yes, big ones too. But anyways, eventually, we got money in to fund the position. The board changed the job title from station manager to general manager.
And
Since
from
I was-
unpaid to paid at that
I was
point,
doing
yeah.
everything. They said, "All right, you're the general manager." I was paying the bills. I was
Keeping
the
it
only
all
one here,
together.
keeping it together.
Now you were telling me too. Again, you're kind of combining your background, very hands-on. Everything. You back then you had to deal with everything here, including if the generator went down or if the transmitter went down. You're up there with wires and
Well, that was part of doing the job. Everything that needed to be done. In those days, we had a transmitter that was old. It was 1960s technology, and it needed a lot of care. It had been neglected for years. So I was able to find a couple of engineers to help me out with it. And I actually went up to the transmitter site, which is at the top of a 100 Front Street building in the machine floor with no windows. We used to shut
the transmitter's off-site.
off-site, yes. Yeah, I'll get to that in a second.
Okay.
In those days, it was transmitted. Our signal went up there by a microwave. It went from the roof of this building to the roof of that building, down to the transmitter, and then up to the main antenna
then
that
out
beamed
by
it out
FM, yeah.
to everybody. But anyways, we'd go up there after the station shut down at 1, 2 in the morning. Whenever they shut off, we went off the air. We'd spend all night in a room with no windows working on the transmitter, get it back up and running for 4, 5, 6 o'clock in the morning when we went back on the air, and then we'd come down. By that time, the maintenance crew would take over the elevator, the only elevator that went to that floor, so we'd have to walk down 22 floors to get to street level. And then
Talk about having to do it all, right?
catch a few hours sleep and then come in here and go to work. I mean, it's what needed to be done.
I
did-
bet, though, in a way, though, I mean, because it sounds like there was a small core that you worked with.
There was.
You look back at those days with a bit of at the moment, it really was kind of grudging work or
Well,
really.
yeah, but-
man, don't you look back on those days and go, wow, those were actually pretty fun times. You were
They
working with
were.
a core group of people that you all
They
care
were.
about what you do.
Well, virtually all the programmers here were passionate about what they did.
Yeah.
We had great programmers, great programs for a community station. I had the opportunity to go to several national NFCB, National Federation of Community Broadcasters, conferences.
Now, what does that
and
look?
me-
I'm picturing a bunch of kind of Bernie Sanders types.
Well,
out
there are a lot of those,
we
but
got-
there are a lot of professionals,
and I don't mean that
too.
disparagingly.
There are a lot of professionals, too. I got to meet the people that actually started the